Inspiring interviews with today's top landlords. This is the Rental Income Podcast. And now, Dan Lay.
Joining me on the podcast today from Oklahoma City is Landon Dean. And I want to talk to Landon today about how he is managing his property manager, because he's doing a really good job of it. And also, I want to talk to him about a recent property he bought that was a for sale by owner. Hey, Landon, welcome to the show.
Hey, Dan, how are you, man?
Oh,
Thanks
doing
for having
good.
me.
Doing good. Sure. So before we get into your story, why don't you tell me why you invested in real estate versus stocks or anything else that you could have invested in? What made you want to invest in real estate?
Gotcha. Yeah. So we obviously, I think like a typical, average home, they have, you've got a 401k and some Roth IRAs or whatnot, different types of, stocks, bonds, that what I think life and generally tells you to invest in those type of things,
Sure.
for long-term benefits. And as things kind of started changing a little bit within the industry and just watching stocks and, how they can be affected by one person, going to a frenzy or a company going to a frenzy, and it affects everything, and people start selling and stocks go up and down, and I had no way to control that whatsoever.
Right.
So my wife and I, decided that, let's look into something different. And I had a friend who had used a management company for one of his previous houses that he lived in. And then they moved to another house and decided to use the management company. And I thought, well, I don't really want to deal with the tenants and any maintenance repairs and things like that. So he's the one that kind of got me thinking in that avenue of things. But that's, once we decided to go that route and decide, hey, let's change our philosophy and let's try something different outside the box a little bit and see how it goes.
You made the decision that you're going to invest in real estate and you want to own rental properties. How did you take that first step? What was the very first thing that you did to buy your first property?
So the first one that we bought standalone, my wife and I, it was basically, we knew the dollar figure that we had to have 20% down. We knew kind of an area that we wanted to focus on, which we thought was a good rental area, a good young professionals area. And then from there, we just kind of, used the realtor that we've used, to purchase our, home that we live in, to help us find, a good rental house. And he has a couple rentals as well. So we thought he was knowledgeable in that area to help us find, the sweet spot.
How did you know that it was a good area? What was it, close to where you lived, or were there certain things you were looking for where you thought things would rent better than another area?
It butts up to some other really good areas that, higher priced homes, where people, want to live in, but can't. So, it's close to kind of it's in a centralized location. So it made it make sense. And we used to actually live fairly close to that, 10, 15 years ago too. So we knew the area. So that's primarily it.
This is a single family house that you bought? Okay.
Correct. Yes.
Give me some details. How many bedrooms? How many baths?
It's a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath, a little over 1,100 square feet.
Okay.
So I would say the biggest, and this is one of the main reasons I wanted to talk with you and get my information out there, is because I feel like we're very the common real estate investor. We're not extremely savvy, and as years go by, we're slowly adding expertise and knowledge. Listening to the podcast, we gain so much information. But I think it's great to hear from somebody who's just getting started. How do I get started in this? What's the first steps? And
right.
I think it's scary when you talk about putting $25,000 to $30,000 down on something, and what if it doesn't work out?
Right.
And that's something that you always have to think about, but I think it's a relatively safe investment if you get the right people in place.
Absolutely. So, give me some numbers for that first deal. How much did the house cost, and how much did you rent it out for?
We bought it for $113,500.
Okay.
We currently have it rented for $10.95 a
Okay.
month right now. We could get more, but right now I think the market's kind of, because we're in Oklahoma City, the oil and gas sector is down, so it's affecting our rental market for sure. People are getting less for their properties here.
So prices are coming down. Have you noticed things are taking longer to rent too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So we've had the same tenants for 2 years in this property. They just their lease ended end of March. So we're currently, and we've been marketing for 3 weeks. While they were still in there, and we haven't had any. So we've been sitting on it for almost 4 weeks, vacant. So
Oh, wow.
unfortunately, we may have to drop price a little bit, but we're also in the process of redoing the half bath, putting in new carpet. We just built a new deck in the back, so trying to bring it up to a little bit more modern standards as well too.
You have a property manager for this property, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now tell me how do you manage your manager? Because a lot of times people feel that if they call their manager, that maybe they're bothering them, or that the manager doesn't have much to say. How do you approach that? Like, how do you build that relationship with your property manager?
You know what? The first and foremost thing that I started with them was, I was extremely nice, appropriate. I mean, overly friendly from the get go. And I think once you build that rapport, you get people on their team, and they realize that, hey, you're not another nuisance guy who's just calling and asking, why isn't this done? And when's money going to be deposited and things of that nature. So learning how to build a relationship and treat people like you want to be treated, essentially. And it's a simple thought process, but I think sometimes we forget about that. How building relationships and just saying thank you and please and apologizing for calling so many times or that type of thing. And what I found is, doing this over the past couple of years, word of mouth, I've found that I have now become one of their favorite clients, just because I treat them the way they want to be treated. And whether that be phone call or emails, everything's appropriate, and it's so that's been the biggest thing. And knowing too, throughout that company, who handles accounting, who handles showings and tenant screenings and background checks, who handles maintenance repairs, so that I'm not having to create extra work for somebody, that I can go directly to this person for the accounting versus going to this operator and then they send me to here. And so it just streamlines that as well too. I think that's a big benefit as well.
I think that's great advice for managing your property manager, but also just great advice for life in general. If you're friendly and you treat people with respect, people are going to want to do business with you. So I think that is really good advice. Have you had any problems with the management company?
Or, I have not.
Okay.
No, if I were to say a problem, is that we don't have a tenant in one of the houses right now. But I can't control all of that. And nor can they. So,
do you think there's anything you can do to rent the house faster? I know you mentioned drop the price and you're improving it, but is there anything else you think you can do to get someone in there? It's just the market and just waiting it out.
Yep, exactly. And I think dropping the price is probably going to be the next, because we've debated back and forth. Do you want an extra $100 a month, or would you rather, break even or make $25 a month, but you're still getting debt pay down, but you've got tenants in there, so you're not losing money each month. And I think that's, if you think of the big picture of things, I think that debt pay down is such a huge, everybody wants cash flow each month, and that's the icing, and yes, we do want that. But when you look at that grand scheme of things, when you drive that debt down, and then once you eventually get it paid off, then that cash flow really starts coming in too.
Now, your next property after you bought that single family was a duplex. What made you want to buy a duplex? It seems like there's two camps of rental property owners. There's people that like single families, and there's people that like multifamily properties. And you've got both of them. So what made you want to do a duplex after doing a single family?
It wasn't so much that I wanted to do it. It's just that I found it. And I found it through the classified section in the paper. And I was
Hold on, in the newspaper, the classified section in the newspaper, and
correct,
this was
yep.
recently. This wasn't in 1982,
No,
right?
this was in August of last year is when we closed on it. Yeah,
Incredible. That's really good because a lot of people aren't even looking in the newspaper. You probably had less competition, but less people trying to find it. So tell me, how did it work? You called the person up and said, "Hey, I want to see your property."
Yep, that's exactly what it was. An older lady who has lived here in Oklahoma City, and they have done a lot of fix and flips, and so this was their 18th property. So she had taken care of it well, and it was move in ready. There were a couple things that they were still in the process of updating, but it's in a new area of town that's starting to thrive in Midtown Oklahoma City. So it's kind of near a university. Didn't know a whole lot about the duplex side of things. But once I started kind of doing a little bit of research and I knew she had a tenant in there already in one side, and she told me what she was getting for it and the previous side, what she had gotten for that side. I kind of did the math on that, just kind of ran the numbers and looked at, okay, at 25% down, what's that going to cost us? Okay. It's a 1 bedroom, 1 bath on each side, roughly about 900 square feet each side. And I knew that, okay, well, we're going to save money as far as not paying any realtor fees. And, so I went in that same day. I had called her when I saw it and went by and looked at it and kind of did a Google Street View of it first before I went by, and then walked through it with her. And then literally probably a week later had made her an offer, which was scary because that was, am I doing the right things? I don't have any legal advice. I don't have a realtor associated to me to help me. So it was very interesting, but it kind of went through the whole process was just like you and I had talked about, treating people right. And that's how with her, I sat down with her multiple times, and we would just sit down and talk. And it was a great relationship, her understanding where I was coming from and me understanding where she was coming from. So we came to what I felt like was a pretty good mutual agreement and purchased the duplex for 108. And that market over there is just growing and growing. So property values are increasing quite a bit over there.
And
already.
What do you have the units rented out for?
So we have one unit at $695, the other unit at $650.
Okay.
One's a little bit smaller. So yeah, we're roughly cash flowing $350 to $400 a month.
Yeah, that's much better numbers than the single family.
Yeah.
Do you have more expenses? Are you having to pay for the water or any of the utilities?
No, the tenants. I'm sorry. Yes, they have a $50 monthly fee that they pay for water. So then the utilities come off of my expense. So, which that goes straight to the management company. Then just comes out of my rental income. So it's really a wash. I don't see it. So the management company pays for the utilities. They're
paying their $650 or $695 plus $50 for the water.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And then the electric is metered separately, so they're paying their own. Okay.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yep.
You said it was. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That was just a new thing for me to learn as far as the duplex scene. Not knowing that, I have to pay for some of this stuff because it's split like that.
You said it was near a university. Are you able to rent it to students or?
This one. The ones that I have in there are not students, but she had told me in the past she's got a lot of law students. There's a really good law school at Oklahoma City University.
Okay.
That's right down the road.
What about the outside maintenance? Are you having to mow the grass or do anything outside?
I have. Okay. One of the tenants, been very fortunate, was actually the daughter of the lady I bought it from. So she takes extreme pride in it. She and I both do. and we talk about it quite often as far as the maintenance, the lawn. She helps us upkeep it as well. But I've also got some young guys that live around here that go and mow it every week, so that's another expense that comes out.
Now that you've had a duplex and a single family for your next property, would you want to buy a duplex or would you want to buy a single family? Are you sold in any direction, or is it just a matter of whatever's a good deal you would buy?
I would, first and foremost, yes, it's got to be a good deal. And that's what we learned from our first purchase was, as a first time investor, we got involved in the emotional side of things. And this is where I would tell people, if it's your first time, get somebody on board who can look at the numbers and help you figure out, is it truly a good deal, or are you just extremely excited that you're buying a rental property and you're starting your investment career in a different form? And that's how we were. We didn't, with that single family home, we didn't know exactly what we could get for it. So we didn't run the numbers like we should. Now we're completely different role. And that's the first and foremost when we look at properties, is if it's not cash flowing for us, if it doesn't make sound financial sense, then move on to the next one. We don't get emotionally invested into a property anymore. So as far as back to your question, I would love to steer towards the duplex side of things, just because the cash flow is way better.
Yeah, and I think that's something that really varies area to area. In some areas, the duplexes don't seem to cash flow as well as single families, but it sounds like in your area, the duplexes you're going to make much more money on a duplex. Yes. Now let's circle back to when you actually were buying the property. How did you do the contract with your seller?
This is going to sound extremely stupid, but I just did research on the internet and found some generic sample contracts and wrote them up essentially just as they had done on Rocket Lawyer, I think.
Okay.
Some sites. I think that's actually where I got that one from, was Rocket Lawyer. And then plugged in all the data as far as the purchase price, the contingencies that I had on it, as well, addresses and things of that nature. So it really wasn't. It sounds like extremely daunting, for somebody just getting into it. Like, I'm going to buy a home, I'm going to put this $30,000 down, and I'm going to write the contract on it. And it wasn't as. Now that I've done it, I can see like, oh, okay, I can handle this.
Right.
So. Okay.
And did you give the earnest money to the seller, or did you give it to the title company?
We gave it to, we put it in the title company.
Okay, good. Smart move.
And that was, I got really lucky too with the lady we bought it from, because, like I told you, it was kind of a win-win. She helped me quite a bit, through the whole process, of knowing, okay, here's the next step. Here's what we're going to do. So, I was very grateful, to have this deal with her, because she helped us so much in kind of learning. And whereas somebody else could have said, oh, okay, this guy's a newbie, let's rake him around a little bit.
Right.
And,
take advantage of him.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't feel like she did that at all. And I felt she was truly genuine, and I could see that. And that's where building that relationship with her, and she could see, who I truly was. I could really tell who she was, just by having a lot of phone conversations, a lot of sit down conversations. So that helped a ton. And it got us some good knowledge underneath us.
When you made the offer to her, I always like, when I'm making a offer on a property, I always like to do it in writing. Did you offer to her in writing, or was it just through the conversations that you guys agreed upon the price?
I did it in writing.
Okay.
And I brought it to her, and we sat down and looked at it. So,
okay.
Which it was funny, because I was like, this is going to be very interesting. I've never done anything like this. It's me walking in saying, hey, here's what you think your house is worth. Here's what I'm willing to pay you for it. And here's why. So that was me going back and doing the research. Looking at the county assessor, what did they pay for it? Her believing in her and telling me the amount of work that dollar figure she had put into it. And then kind of putting those numbers together and then looking at kind of, a comps, for that neighborhood, which is very hard because in that neighborhood, you have single family homes, duplexes, some triplexes, some fourplexes. And so it's hard to really get a really good comparative analysis of a true duplex like that.
Were you able to negotiate with her much? I've always found that for sale by owners are generally overpriced, like that they want more for their house than it's worth, and they're trying to save money because they don't want to pay the realtor's commission. And I find a lot of times they're kind of off base on the price they're looking for. Was she like that, or was she pretty reasonable?
No, it was originally listed for $115 and we bought it for $108. So when I told her, I think she understood, that she thought that was fair. And that's what she told me when I first showed her the offer, and we sat down in the kitchen and she looked at it and she said, this offer looks fair. So let me talk to her husband and verify it just to make sure that he's good. But I think she had realized, that she had it overpriced, and that this was the right price for it.
Perfect. So, awesome. Well, Landon, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was great. Great hearing your knowledge and hearing your story. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. I appreciate it very much. And I hope it, obviously giving back is great. And I hope that, there's other investors that are looking to start their career and this can kind of help them or spark them and motivate them to take that first step.